Welcome back, XRP Army. Happy Saturday, happy weekend. We are officially in the final stretch of the year, less than 2 weeks left, and I want to talk about something that every single XRP holder is thinking about right now, whether they admit it or not. One simple but uncomfortable question: where is the bottom? Because if we can get even close to that answer, everything changes. Positioning changes, strategy changes, confidence changes. Right now, XRP is sitting in a zone that feels strange. Every price you're seeing on the screen, 2.01, 220, 2.02, 221, and now down around 192, it's not random. This isn't normal price action. This is a market that's being pushed, pulled, and tested aggressively. Pumps, dumps, sudden reversals, like all in a very short window of time. And let's be honest, a lot of people got wiped out this week. That's not FUD, that's reality. Some of you decided to step back from trading altogether and just buy and hold. That's completely fine. Others are still, trying to scalp, still trying to catch moves in a market that's been extremely unforgiving. But here's the thing. If we can identify a reasonable bottom range, not a perfect price, but a realistic zone, then the entire mindset shifts. Instead of reacting emotionally, we start making executive decisions. We stop guessing. We start planning. And I want to be very transparent with you today. I was wrong about Q4. I expected a much stronger fourth quarter across the board, October, November, December. I genuinely believed this would be a far better environment post-halving. A lot of analysts did. A lot of people way above my pay grade did. But instead, we got one of the most brutal, manipulated confidence testing for Guatemalan quetzals we've seen in a long time. That doesn't mean the thesis is dead. It means timing changed. It means expectations need to be adjusted, and it means we need to respect what the market is actually doing, not what we want it to do. So, in this video, I'm not here to hype you up. I'm not here to promise moonshots. I want to walk through what we're actually seeing, why XRP keeps stepping lower in controlled moves, and where a realistic bottom range might exist based on structure, behavior, and timing, not hope. And I want you involved in this. Drop your thoughts in the comments as we go. Where do you think XRP finds its floor? Because if we're right even roughly, the next phase becomes an opportunity, not a threat. Let's break it down. Here's where we zoom out and stop guessing. Markets don't bottom at single prices. They bottom in ranges. And that range is built through time, not emotion. Over the past month, XRP has stair-stepped lower. Mid-November levels, early December breakdowns, repeated sell-offs followed by weak bounces. That tells us sellers are still in control, but they're losing momentum. Now, let's kill one myth right now. I do not see XRP going back under $1. That era is over. The sub-$1 XRP you saw in 2024 was a gift created by extreme uncertainty and forced liquidation. That environment no longer exists. Liquidity, regulation, and market structure have changed. Could price spike down fast? Sure. Could it wick violently? Absolutely. But sustained trading under $1? Highly unlikely. So instead of chasing exact numbers, I focus on zones. And the zone that keeps lining up structurally, technically, and psychologically is between $150 and $1.70. Why that range? Simple. We already tagged 177. Below that, you have prior demand clusters, volume nodes, and a long-term rising price channel that currently intersects around 165. That's not guesswork. That's math. Multiple confirmations across time frames. If XRP flushes one last time for tax loss selling, end-of-year liquidity grabs, or broader market weakness, that's where I expect real buyers to step in, not gamblers. And yes, a move from 190 to 150 would be brutal. That's a 20% plus drop. Billions wiped temporarily, but that's exactly how final bottoms are formed. Now, here's the key distinction most people miss. Volatility is not bearish for traders. It's necessary. Scalpers and day traders thrive in this environment. If you know XRP well, volatility is opportunity. But if you don't, it's a slaughterhouse. That's why most people are better off accumulating slowly rather than trying to be heroes. Personally, I'm buying and holding. Not because trading doesn't work, but because time is a resource, and not everyone has hours to stare at charts. But if price enters that $150 one range with confirmation, that's when conviction accumulation happens. So I'll leave it here and pass the question to you. Where do you think XRP bottoms? Are you in my range? Lower? Higher? Drop it in the comments because the next move starts with understanding this one. Now, let's talk honestly about what went wrong because pretending everything went according to plan would be nonsense. I'll be straight with you. I was wrong about fourth quarter. I expected strength. I expected continuation. I expected the classic post-H having momentum to show up the way it always has in previous cycles. Instead, October, November, December turned into 3 brutal months of chop, manipulation, and aggressive shakeouts. And that didn't just catch retail off guard. It caught analysts, hedge funds, and people far smarter and more experienced than me off guard too. That matters because it tells you this market is no longer playing by the old rules. The 4-year cycle narrative, it's breaking down. The idea that fourth quarter of a post-halving year is always bullish. That assumption just got punched in the mouth. And here's where it gets interesting. Because while price has been ugly, the backdrop hasn't. In 2025, we finally got the news we were waiting for in 2023 and 2024. Regulatory progress, institutional clarity, infrastructure announcements, all the things everyone said would send XRP flying. And yet price didn't reflect it. That disconnect is important. It tells you this market isn't driven by headlines anymore. It's driven by liquidity timing. Whales institutions and market makers don't move when news drops. They move when positioning is optimal. And right now, everything suggests they're delaying expansion, not abandoning it. That points directly to 2026 as the real inflection year. Not because 2025 failed, but because 2025 was the setup year. Now, combine that with what we're hearing from macro players. Hedge fund managers openly talking about a potential Bitcoin peak early in Q1, possibly January. If that plays out, it reshapes everything. Bitcoin typically runs first, absorbs liquidity, then rotates capital into infrastructure assets, not memes, not hype coins, but networks with real settlement utility. And that's exactly where XRP lives. So when we ask the question, where is the bottom, we're not asking it emotionally. We're asking it structurally. We're asking where fear exhausts itself, where sellers run out, where liquidity steps back in quietly. That's how bottoms form, not with hype, with boredom and disbelief. And that's why this range matters more than any single candle. We've been grinding lower, not crashing. Lower highs, lower lows, but controlled. That tells me this isn't panic. It's distribution before accumulation. The market is squeezing patience, not breaking fundamentals. And if you understand that, you stop reacting to every red candle and start thinking in zones instead of prices. That's the difference between surviving this phase and getting shaken out right before the turn. Now, here's where things get practical, and I want to slow everyone down mentally for a second. If you're asking where the bottom is, it's not because you're panicking. It's because you want clarity. You want to know where risk starts to flip into opportunity. And that's the right mindset. Markets don't bottom when everyone feels comfortable. They bottom when exhaustion sets in, when selling pressure dries up, and when bad news stops pushing price lower. What we've seen over the last month is exactly that type of environment forming. Each dump has less follow-through. Each bounce is quicker. That doesn't mean the bottom is guaranteed to be in, but it tells you sellers are losing control. From a structure standpoint, XRP is no longer behaving like it did in early 2024 when sub-owned prices were normal. That area was driven by uncertainty, lawsuits, and a lack of institutional clarity. Today, even during heavy manipulation, XRP is defending higher lows. That matters. Markets don't randomly choose ranges. They accept them. And right now, the market is slowly accepting that XRP belongs above the levels we saw last year. That's why every dip is getting bought faster than before, even in a brutal fourth quarter. This is also where psychology destroys people. Many traders are waiting for a perfect number, 120, one for hour, $80, because that's what worked before. But markets punish that kind of thinking. The bottom is rarely where the crowd agrees it should be. It forms in a zone, not a single candle. If you're waiting for absolute confirmation, you'll likely be late. If you're over-leveraged, you'll get wiped. The smart approach here is acknowledging a range, not a fantasy price. That's why the 1501-170 zone matters. It aligns with prior consolidation, trend support, and real buyer interest. It's structure. Could we wick lower briefly? Sure. Markets love fierce spikes, but sustained acceptance below $1 would require a completely different macro backdrop than what we have right now. That's why I don't see sub $1 as realistic unless something genuinely breaks in the system. Right now, despite the chaos, the system is actually strengthening behind the scenes. At this stage, the goal isn't to catch the exact bottom. That's ego. The goal is to position intelligently so that when momentum flips, you're not chasing candles, second-guessing entries, or selling too early out of fear. The bottom is less about price and more about behavior. And the behavior we're seeing right now looks like latest-stage accumulation, not early-stage collapse. So, here's where I'll leave you. XRP does not need hype, influencers, or perfect timing to succeed. It needs patience and positioning. If you're waiting for absolute certainty, you'll miss the move. If you're chasing green candles, you'll become exit liquidity. The people who win in this market are the ones who accept uncertainty, manage risk, and think in ranges, not fantasies. Whether XRP turns from here or dips once more into that 150-170 zone, the long-term structure remains intact. Utility is expanding, regulation is progressing, and time is slowly eliminating weak hands. That's how wealth transfers happen, not in explosions, but in silence. And with that said, let me be crystal clear. This content is not financial advice. I am not telling you to buy, sell, or hold XRP or any other asset. Markets are volatile, unpredictable, and you are responsible for your own decisions. Always do your own research, assess your own risk tolerance, and never invest money you cannot afford to lose. I'm simply sharing my analysis, experience, and perspective. If it helps you think more clearly, good. That's the goal. I'll see you in the next.